What is going on, everyone? Welcome back. It feels kind of nice to be here on a Monday as opposed to Tuesday. I feel like stuff's a little bit more relevant to talk about, which is good. Yeah, how are we doing? I know it's probably a redundant question. I'm sure people are still bummed about yesterday's game, as am I. But the world moves on. I went to Lambeau Field today. I tried going to the pro shop. I tried going to the atrium, and everything was closed. They said got to shut down business. You can't lose to a team with 13 wins in the conference or in the division. We got to fold up. Got to call it a day. So fans are right. The sky has fallen. Lambeau Field's closed. I don't know if the Packers are relocating, if they're closing down or what, but it was a good run. Oh, sorry. That's just how people are acting online. I never mind me. I feel like I make that joke probably a dozen times, and it never gets old. At least not to me. I'm sure to you guys it probably does. How's the week going? How are we doing? I know we're early on into the week. I'm back in my work week, which is kind of weird. But it's nice to get back into routine. I'm a fan of routine. Before we kind of get into who's watching, let's drop this link for some giveaways. If it's your first time watching, please just do one entry per person. I'm going to post it multiple times throughout the episode. Just enter one time. Not once per time I post it, just one time. Make life a lot easier on me, that's for sure. Let's check, see who's watching. We got Ron as always. Ron, good to see you. Good to see you, sir. I know I say this a lot, Ron. The New Year's coming up. I'm gonna be getting some fresh time on my vacation. We are gonna be getting lunch soon. Soon, I hope. Definitely in January, I'll be reaching out to you. Keith, good to see you again, sir. Appreciate you checking in. We have Chad from the Bahamas, who's been making me jealous with some of these pictures he's sending. I'm living vicariously through him. Although it was quite warm in Green Bay today, it was like 45 degrees. So it's practically Bahama weather here in Green Bay. Josh, good to see you, sir. Appreciate you swinging by as usual. Ben from Cali, another usual. Good to see you, man. Derek, we're just getting the usual train going. Derek, and then we got Corey and Logan checking in. Good to see you guys. Let's see, Raymundo, good to see you, man. Appreciate you swinging back in. Raymundo, save that for the burning hot questions. I definitely want to talk about that. My guy, Wado. Wade held my house down while I was gone, so shout out to Wade and Bella and Anthony. Appreciate you guys. Chris in the house, good to see you, man. Atlanta stuck in traffic. That's not good, Amy. Appreciate you swinging in. We got Jenny as usual. Good to see you, Jenny. I did post the link, Derek. It should be up above. Otherwise, I'll post it again here. I got it fresh. If you're new, like I said, only enter in one time per show. Please don't enter in multiple times. Otherwise, it can disqualify you from the giveaway. Well, let's get into things. There's a lot to get into. I know last week we ran a little late. So let's just jump in. Ooh, Andrew, good to see you, man. Appreciate you swinging by. Thanks for stopping by and checking it out. Well, the Packers fell to the Vikings 27-25. I will say the scoreboard, that final score, does not really tell the full story of that game. That one was pretty much all Vikings. The first touchdown we scored was definitely Vikings playing more of a prevent style. I don't think the second touchdown was. I think the second touchdown was them trying to tighten up a little bit more. Maybe Packers kind of found that rhythm off of that first touchdown. But I think and maybe I'm wrong, maybe Minnesota's playing prevent the entire time. If that's the case, that is very poor strategy on their part, because the Packers were very much in the chance to win that game at the end. And clock management like that and game management like that will come back to bite you in the wrong situations. You can only do that so many times. So it was nice the Packers made it a game there at the end. I didn't think they were going to, if we're being honest. But I'm excited to talk about it. I mean, as much as you can be excited to talk about the fact that the Packers got their tails kicked. That happens. I have plenty of bad days at the office, and I think football teams are no different. The tone was set pretty early. I think the Packers were driving pretty well, and then that the Jones fumble. Sorry, that would be from previous years. That Jacobs fumble really, really hindered all momentum. I feel like it took everything out. Had the Packers went down and scored on that possession, I think maybe that whole dynamic of that game goes a little bit different. The crowd's maybe not into it as much. Packers defense might be juiced if they get a stop there and the Packers can do something that next possession. But with that being said, Minnesota made a play. Minnesota took control of the game. Good teams do that. Minnesota's a good team. We knew that going into it. It should be no surprise. You don't win. What are they at? 13 wins right now? 14 wins? I think they're at 13 wins right now. They're at 14 wins with that win. You don't win 14 games without being a good team. So, hey, that's all right. That's how it goes. The season's definitely not done yet. I know. I'll talk about that. But Jordan Love, not a good showing for him. I think he had 65 yards up until the fourth quarter when the offense kind of started a rhythm. Finished the day 19 of 30, 185 yards and a touchdown. There were so many issues with that offense. Jordan had little to no time to do anything in that game. The defense, led by Brian Flores or coached by Brian Flores, man, he put together a really good game plan for attacking the offensive line. And it's similar to what we saw Detroit do when we played them. Detroit was just sending the house. Now, the Packers had more success against Detroit than they did against Minnesota. Minnesota just had their number, and that's how it goes sometimes. Now, we didn't do ourselves any favors by some of the passes that Love did throw getting dropped. The 4th and 2 to Jaden Reed wasn't the most perfect pass, but Reed had both hands on it. That should be a catch all day long. We saw that deep one to Dobbs. Should have been a catch on that. I do think the defensive back slowed him up a little bit, so maybe that's where it kind of came into play. I thought that was going to be a home run ball for sure. Love put it right on the money. It seemed like either Dobbs kind of stutter stepped or the D-back slowed him up just enough to get it right outside his grasp. And then, we just really had no answers for their pass rush. They exploited it the entire game, and good on Minnesota once again. Kudos to Minnesota. They came in with a great plan. They executed. Their offense did what their offense needed to do. Their defense did what their defense needed to do. It was in a hostile environment in Minnesota, and that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Josh Jacobs finished with 17 carries for 69 yards, 1 touchdown. And I think I read that he has a touchdown in 7 consecutive games, which he's the first Green Bay Packer to ever do that, which is, that's when your franchise is over 100 years old and you're setting records your first year on the team, that's a good thing. Definitely good company to have on our team. We've talked about it all season long. The Packers are really utilizing him in goal-to-go situations, which is great. You're lowering your risk of things going wrong. But, it takes away from Jordan's touchdown numbers, but that's okay. I think if we're scoring touchdowns, I don't think anyone's complaining about, anyone outside of some fans are complaining about Love not throwing more touchdowns. And like I said, that fumble, I think that set the whole tone for the entire game. Packers felt like they had some good momentum going, and then everything just got sucked out of the room. It was just like when that got put on the ground and Vikings recovered, it was just like, okay. From my perspective, it's like, okay, it's going to be one of those games. It's just some games the ball just doesn't bounce your way, and that yesterday felt like one of those. That's how it goes sometimes. Like we said, they had a bad day at the office. That happens. That happens. It's how they respond is what's going to be, the important part. Defense, we had the 1 turnover by Carrington Valentine. Outside of that, it was pretty tough. I mean, Minnesota has a lot of weapons. They have Justin Jefferson, they have Addison, they have Hawkinson, they have, now I spaced the guy that torched us the entire day, but number 83, he torched us the entire game. But when you have that many weapons, it's going to happen. We saw that with the Packers back in like 2011 when they had so many weapons, you just couldn't cover them all. I thought we had that with the receiving core this year, but when losing Watson seems to be such a big loss on this team that I hope we get him back sooner rather than later. I don't care if he's back for Chicago. Yes, you want to beat Chicago to keep that streak alive. I get it. You want to beat division teams, and you don't want to go in the playoffs losing to a team like Chicago. But ultimately, I'd rather Watson come back healthy in the postseason rather than coming in banged up or re-aggravating an injury against Chicago that makes it where he's out in the wild card, because we're going to need him in that postseason. Losing Zane as well hurt big time. We lost him on a concussion early in the game. Minnesota was struggling to do anything offensively. He goes out with a concussion. Javon had to move back into that safety spot as opposed to a strength role in the more of a slot corner, or excuse me, the like slot safety, that nickel safety. And that really hindered this defense. We're already without Evan Williams for the season, which is a big loss. So it just felt like we're getting really thin, especially at that safety position. Then it made it really, really hard. Um, some teams right now can overcome injuries. We're seeing Detroit overcome injuries. Packers do not feel like that team right now, and that's where we're at right now. Now, it's a new scheme. It's our first year in a defense. I think this free agency period is going to be crucial to keep adding guys that can be playmakers, even if injuries happen. So we have that. It's going to be a crucial offseason, but we're not to the offseason yet. So no point in even talking about it. Let me kind of check some comments here before we, let's see, before we kind of keep going here. Yeah, I mean, Liz, you nailed it. The O-line got embarrassed that game for sure. Jordan, good to see you, man. I did tell the story about us going to the game last week, and you weren't here for it, so I'm a little disappointed. I told them about how you're rolling up the game day brochure and blowing the horns in people's ears right in front of us. So, would it have mattered if the Packers had Watson? I think it would have. Watson takes the top off that defense. They talked about the Vikings played a lot more man than they were expecting. Had Watson been there, they're not playing man the same way. Like Watson does so much for this offense, and I know fans love to they harp on the dude, right? We've seen him. He had some pretty bad lingering issues last year with his hamstring or soft tissues. This year he's been pretty good. He gets banged up here or there. A bruised knee, not really something he can control. Someone fell on him weird. We saw him hurt early in the year when Love threw that ball and he got his leg twisted. I mean, that's just bad luck, but it's not anything of his own doing. It's not like he's not stretching enough or he's not like taking care of his body. I mean, it's unfortunate. Players get banged up and, it's unfortunate. Some guys have worse luck than others. He's a tall, lanky dude. So it's probably going to happen more often. But yeah, I feel like he's missed a lot when he's not there. Not only from a receiving standpoint of taking the top off the defense, but also from a blocking standpoint. He's a really strong blocker as a receiver. He brings a lot of speed. Even on the end rounds, he can kind of do some deception there. So it really was a bummer to lose him. Where in Green Bay should we go to watch the Lions versus Vikings game? That's a good question. I mean, I would say Legendaries, but there's a million sports bars. There's a new Packers sports bar that just opened up not long ago called First and Goal. It's over by Legendaries. It's where R&D's House Divided used to be. So if you want to check out that place, I haven't been there yet. I don't know if it's good or not. So maybe that's not a good recommendation, but it is like a new Packers themed sports bar. Carl, I think the Packers Pro Shop sold me a defective Tucker Craft jersey. Every time I've worn it, we lost. Well, Carl, thanks. The loss is on your shoulders now. Now I know who to blame. Yeah, so there's Yeah, Bailey, come on over. Everyone can show up at my house. That's a Sunday night game, I would assume. I haven't seen if it was flexed. My son will be sleeping, so we need to all be very quiet. I don't know that my wife will be too happy with having a bunch of people coming over. But yeah, come on over. um, you know, I do think I've talked about this a lot while doing the show, but I do think it's pretty funny how every single time the Packers lose, the pendulum swings back by some of these fans. And I think it's a small minority, but I see fans that will only comment when the Packers lose. And it happened last night too. Right away, it was like, we need to fire Matt LaFleur. We need to cut Jordan Love. We need to, get rid of everyone essentially, start from the ground up. This team's not going anywhere. And listen, I know the Packers have not beat a team with a stronger record than them in the Eagles, the Lions, and the Vikings this year. As we head into the postseason, I will say this: yesterday's failures do not equate to tomorrow's failures, and yesterday's successes do not equate to tomorrow's successes. The Packers losing to the Eagles and twice to the Lions and twice to the Vikings means nothing once you're in the postseason. Absolutely nothing. As a Packers fan, I've seen many times that we beat a team in the regular season and the team beats us in the postseason. The Giants, look at the 2007 Giants. Now they're an anomaly. By no means am I saying the Packers are going to do this. But the '07 Giants lost to the Cowboys. They lost to the Packers, and I think the team, I can't think of who they beat in the wild card round, but I'm pretty sure they lost to them as well during the regular season. And they lost to the Patriots in the regular season. They lost the end of their season. I think they lost to the Patriots before even heading into the playoffs. They lost to everyone, I think. I don't know the wild card off the top of my head, but though they lost to Dallas, who they beat in the divisional round. They lost to the Packers, who they beat in the NFC Championship. They lost to the Patriots, who they beat in the Super Bowl. So regular season means nothing once you're in the playoffs. A chip and a chair is all you need. And for fans to be like, well, that's it. This team's not doing anything. This team's done. It's so wild to me. We know nothing about what's going to happen in the postseason. You go into the postseason as a 7 seed, as a 6 seed. I know that's kind of where the Packers are sitting right now. All it takes is a little momentum, and you can really start believing. Depending on what happens versus Detroit versus Minnesota, that's going to be a tough road, right? No matter what, that's a tough road. But I was kind of in the wagon of, I don't care if we have a 5th seed, 6th seed, 7th seed. You're going to have to play some tough teams to get to the Super Bowl regardless. Why not just be a 7th seed? Who cares? If you're not going to get a home field advantage, really, odds are, what if you're a 5th seed or 6th seed? If you're a 5th seed or a 6th seed, odds are you're not getting a home field advantage. Who cares if you're 5th, 6th, or 7th? I like, the nice part about being a 7th is we got to go in and play the top dog each week, and it's going to show you real quick if you belong there. If you don't, cool, you lose the wild card, you get a better draft spot. You didn't belong there. If you do belong there, and let's say you beat the Eagles, if they're the 2 seed, if you beat the Eagles in Philly, now maybe you start having some positive momentum going your way. Now maybe you head into Detroit, where you lost by a field goal earlier in the year, and you think, hey, we just got that monkey off our back beating Philly in Philly. I think we can beat Detroit, and really, really believe that you can beat Detroit in Detroit. I don't know. Maybe that's just my thought, but I think for fans to be like, this season's done. I know yesterday was like everyone's, after a loss, it's always tough, but there's a lot of football left. And losing a regular season game means nothing come postseason. That 2010 season, we lost to the Washington. We lost to the Dolphins. We lost to the Lions. I know Rodgers got hurt in that game, but we lost to the Lions. We lost games that we really to opponents that were not strong opponents. And yet we made a run. We did some positive things and built momentum. By no means am I saying that's going to be duplicated or replicated here, but to just assume that it's not is so like asinine to me. I don't know how you could watch playoff football year in and year out and see teams go on a run that probably shouldn't go on a run or shouldn't have went on a run, but get hot and the ball bounces their way. Plays happen for the other team that normally don't. Plays happen that might not get made during the regular season. And that's how postseason football goes. That is why playoff football is so fun. It's not a 7 series to determine the winner. It's a one and done any given Saturday or Sunday for the postseason, and anything can happen. And that's what's so beautiful about it. So I love being the underdog. We've been the top dog numerous times, and we've lost numerous times as the top dog. So give me the underdog. Let everyone doubt you, and hopefully you can prove them wrong. And if not, cool. You go home with a better draft pick than playing a weaker team, maybe eking out a win, and then getting rocked the next game. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong in that mindset, but I feel like if you're going to be fraudulent, find out early. Don't linger around. Don't barely limp through the playoffs. Go in and beat the big teams that need to be beat in order to win a Super Bowl. I don't know. I'm sure every fan base is like that, but I think Packers bring this like whole new level of like, I don't know, entitlement or just we're spoiled as a fan base, right? The expectation every year is Super Bowl. And I think when you have a team this young, I think it's kind of unrealistic to expect that. But the Packers went on such a good run last year that fans came into the season thinking this team's going to be a Super Bowl team. And it doesn't always work like that. We've seen some guys regress, and I don't know, 5th seed, 6th seed, 7th seed. I don't care. Let me go on the road. Let me punch people in the mouth and keep going on. If I do have optimism here, let me post this one more time. We're going to be getting ready for some questions here soon. Hell yeah, Corey. Appreciate you, man. I'm glad some people like my rants. I should have a tracker of what's going on in the Detroit game, but I'm not watching it. I'm downstairs in my basement. Swade Coda, good to see you. Swade Coda, my boy, he posted on the post about the final game, talking about how he's gonna go cheer for a winner and cheer for the Chiefs. And Dakota and I go back all the way to childhood. We're good friends all the way back. Dakota is a certified troll, and he likes to post stuff to get a rise out of people. And that post did not disappoint. There are a lot of fans that are very mad at Dakota for saying that he was going to go be a Chiefs fan for Taylor Swift. So let's see here. Chris, yeah, underdog can be underrated and surprise everyone. And Gary, you're definitely got a point. I mean, the Packers do feel pretty undisciplined in some games. We beat ourselves too many times, but I think I'm optimistic about that. Keith says it's 14-6 right now for San Francisco. So did Gary. I'm optimistic about the fact that the Packers beat themselves. If the Packers don't beat themselves, right? If the Packers can play even 3/4 of a solid game, then it's going to be, I think they could go toe to toe with anyone, really. The games that we've seen them lose are games where we make so many mistakes that we just don't get things going, whether it's from turnovers, whether it's from costly penalties. We saw a 3rd and 1 go to a 3rd and 5, and then we didn't convert against Minnesota yesterday. That is a good thing. Now, it's not a good thing that we continuously see that being undisciplined, but we've seen games where they're not completely undisciplined. For the most part, the last like 4 or 5 games, they've looked pretty, even in the loss against Detroit, they looked pretty disciplined. We eliminated most of those costly penalties that we're seeing. and things were getting smoother. So, like I said, bad day at the office. We all have them. I have plenty of bad days. I work remotely, but still, I have plenty of bad days at the office or when I'm working in my office. Along with that, I do think that if the Packers can get Evan Williams back, if they can get Zane Anderson back, if they can get Quay, if they can get Christian back, I think that's good, and I think we're going to see them back for the postseason. I don't know what's going on with Ja. It sounds like he's having some fluid in his knees. Sounds like things maybe aren't going the best for him, so I'm not counting on him coming back for the postseason. It is what it is. Next man up. You got to keep moving forward. Will he be a Packer next year? Hard to say. It's hard to see him be one, especially with all the time he's missed. But I think it all just depends on what happens here. I'm not a GM for a reason. I have no idea. I don't know how the cap works. And, that is what it is. Here's the form once again. If you have not entered, do so. If you've already entered, do not enter again. We'll be drawing that a little later on. You need to be here to win or to claim your prize. Corey says that D-line just can't get home. I feel like losing Preston Smith is now a big factor. Darnold had so much time. What do you think they'll do in free agency? Corey, I'm going to touch on that during the Burning Hot questions segment. It's a great question. But, okay, so kind of wrapping up that game. Final bow on it. Like I said, I think the scoreboard isn't a true indicator of how that game went. Minnesota had Green Bay's number. It's okay. That happens. I hope the Packers can learn from it. I hope they can figure out going forward. I hope, I don't know. That's all you can really do. You can learn from it. You might not see Minnesota in the postseason. You might see them in the postseason. Either way, you hope you can learn from it and overcome it. There's still a lot of football left. The season's not over. I can assure you that. We still got at least 2 games left. As far as the NFC North, Lions are playing as we speak. They are 13-2 right now because they play right now. The Vikings are 14-2. The Packers are 11-5. The Bears are 4-12. And the final week of the regular season, which it's crazy that we're already at that point. I don't know about you, but I feel like football season, just like you blink and football season's done. But the final week, we have Chicago coming to Green Bay, and then we have Minnesota at Detroit. 2 really good games. I hope Green Bay can kind of bounce back and come in strong and go into the postseason strong. And if not, we'll see what happens. Let's get into some burning hot questions here. A huge thank you to Legendaries for sponsoring the show, or sponsoring the show, sponsoring the segment. I say it every week, but I appreciate them immensely. I am a huge Legendaries fan. Even if they weren't sponsoring the show, I still promote them way too much. Over the years, I've posted about them probably hundreds of times. I love wings and I love Legendaries. If you're coming to Green Bay, go check out Legendaries. Go give them a try. I know Corey and Bailey are going to be there. I know Bailey's hating on them a little bit, but I'm going to just always give Bailey crap for that. But Corey is a man of taste, and Corey likes the wings. So that's all you need to say. But I do love Legendaries. They're one of my favorites in town in an unbiased way. And I wouldn't have partnered up with them if I didn't believe in that. I get a lot of requests for partnership and people offering to do stuff with me that I turned down. But when it comes to Legendaries, it felt like such a perfect combination that I'm so happy that we could work together. All season long, when the Packers are playing, you can get wings for $10 a dozen, which is a steal. So go take advantage of that before. I know some fans feel like the Packer season's already over, but I can assure you we at least have 2 more games left of that deal. So go if you're in town, maybe for the playoffs, since the Packers aren't going to be hosting, go hit up Legendaries. Go get some wings, $10 a dozen. I think you could probably put away 3 dozen, 4 dozen. They're big wings, so maybe not, but you don't know unless you try. So that's my pitch there. Let's start out with Corey's question. That D-line just can't get home. I feel like losing Preston Smith is now a big factor. Darnold had so much time. What do you think they'll do in free agency next year, defense or offense? So I'm going to look because I don't think Preston Smith has had much success since he's left. That white mode. He has not gotten a single sack since his first week with the Steelers. I don't know if he's just not seeing much playing time, but he hasn't gotten a single sack while he's been in Pittsburgh, or he's gotten one single sack his first week there. So I I don't know if Green Bay is necessarily missing him that much. Minnesota has a really good offensive line. They have a really good offensive line. But I do think from a free agency perspective, I think the Packers are going to have to dabble in some sort of defense if they can afford it. If I know we're getting some money back in our books and we're going to start kind of getting into a somewhat healthier cap space again. But we have guys that we're going to need to resign. Watson, we're probably going to want to resign. You know, you see this offense without Watson, and it seems like it's a night and day difference. Romeo's coming up. Zach Tom, you're going to want to resign. And there are other guys. We talked about some of the free agents coming up earlier in this year that I don't remember all of them. But I hope there's going to be some weapons that we can sign. I think at least from a cornerback perspective, you're going to need to sign one or two corners if you can, draft another corner or two. I could see the Packers approaching this draft much like they approached wide receiver a couple years ago, running backs a few years ago, safety last year, and just loading up wherever they can on pass rushers and defensive backs, because it just feels like they're so thin at both of those. And the pass rush is a concern. If you play Minnesota again, you need to find a way to get home on a pass rush. It really hurt that we lost Devontae Wyatt. He was getting a lot of pressures, and then we lost him to a concussion, and that disappeared. So these timely injuries that we've seen against divisional opponents this year have really hurt. And that's football. You know, Minnesota loses players too. So to Derek says, what are we lacking most in the 5 losses against good teams? Coaching, players, or coaches? You know, I think in the 5 games that we've lost, I think the Philly game, didn't we have some missed kicks in that one? I think we at least had one missed kick by Braden. And then we had some costly turnovers that led to points. Detroit, we had turnovers. We had that pick 6 before halftime, the one at home. So costly turnovers. Minnesota, the first time, Braden had 2 missed field goals. We lost by 2 to them again. I do think they went to that prevent style and let the Packers back into it again, like they did yesterday. You know, I think it's a combination of things. Players not making plays that you need them to make. And look at yesterday. Minnesota had a few passes that were such low percentage completions that somehow got completed. That final pass where their running back basically caught it off his shoestrings. Incredible catch on his part. But that catch probably isn't made 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times. So the ball bounced their way. The costly fumble hurt. Going for it on 4th down, you hit Reed in the hands, he drops it. You lost 3 points there. That questionable offsides call before halftime that gave the Vikings 3 points. Now, I don't think like if that field goal's there, I don't necessarily know that makes much of a difference. I'll never blame the refs for a loss. I've talked about that before. The Packers shouldn't put it in a spot for a ref to decide if it's going to be a win or loss. That's, you know, I don't know. It's I didn't really answer your question, Derek. It was a great question, but I didn't really answer it. I just think it's a combination of things. Coaches, I do think it's funny that fan bases, especially when fan bases or when a team starts having success or long-term success, fans seem to think that their team should win every single game, and it should never you should never lose a game. And the other side, I've said this a lot this year, the other side gets paid too. Kevin O'Connell is a phenomenal coach. Brian Flores, phenomenal defensive coach. He's probably going to be a head coach again after the season. Dan Campbell, incredible coach, really great motivator. Ben Johnson, other than not, other than having a great first name, he's also a great offensive coordinator. These are good coaches, great coaches. There's a reason that they're going to be sought after for head coaching jobs. There's a reason that these guys are going to be getting extensions. Like the head coaches are going to be getting extensions. There's a reason Kevin O'Connell's a coach of the year candidate. I believe he's already won coach of the year. They're great coaches, plain and simple. And to be like, oh, Matt always gets outwitted in big games. No, Matt gets can get outplayed by other great coaches. That's life. Matt also has won some good games, but no one gives credit when we beat good teams. They only say when we lose that Matt always loses to good coaches. We beat the Rams in the playoffs. Sean McVay is a hell of a coach. We outcoached him. We've outcoached him a few times now. We've had other success in the postseason with Matt. Beat Pete Carroll 2019. Pete Carroll is an incredible coach. Matt's had success, but he's also had losses. Welcome to the NFL. I feel like I'm just on a tangent tonight with rants. I don't know. I just think it's it's a game of inches. It's a game of things happening that like statistically shouldn't happen. Ball bounces one way, and I don't know. Let's see here. Oh, Sway Coda has 3. Dakota says, got 3 for you. What do we do with Malik Willis? Do you move on from him, or do you keep him for that solid backup? 2, AJ has to have played his last snap as a Packer last season, correct? And then at this point, God, Dakota, this is a long thing. I can't read that well, man. At this point in the season, what do you think is the go-to move for your first pick in the 2025 season? Do you mean like the 2025 draft, or do you mean like free agency? I don't know free agency that well of who's going to be there, so I'm going to just pretend you mean draft. Malik is still under contract. We'll still have him for next year, so we're not doing anything with him. I think they're going to move on from AJ. I can't imagine that they do anything with him. I like AJ as a person. I love how much he loves Green Bay. He's given us some fun memories. That's unfortunately how it goes. And you feel bad because he took a relatively team-friendly deal this year to be here, and then you see the injury happens that kind of completely derails him. And you hope that he gets another opportunity to play, and he's not just like kind of out of the league. And then what do you think? It's tough, man. I don't follow college enough to know like players that are coming out, draft positions or anything like that. But I don't know. I think I could see them going like a pass rusher, especially if they feel like LVN maybe isn't cutting it, or if they have concerns about Gary. I don't think you can ever have too many pass rushers. I could also see them going cornerback. Now, you could put prime time Deion Sanders and prime time Charles Woodson at corner, and without a pass rush, they're going to get eaten alive. So the pass rush to me is the most important thing. What's been kind of concerning is like Kenny Clark, who just got a contract extension, hasn't been making as many plays as we'd like to see. Last few weeks, I feel like he's kind of stepped a bit, but we haven't seen him really disrupt in the middle like maybe he has. So it is kind of a bummer. You hope that these guys can kind of jump back up, and maybe it's just that transitional to this new defense, but we'll see. Amy says, I have to try legendaries when I'm town. I can't go wrong with Krolls. I disagree with Krolls. I'm not a Krolls fan. I think Krolls is pretty overrated. I think a big part of that is because it's so close to the stadium. I love the vibe of it. I love all the memorabilia they have. I don't like the prices, and I don't like how busy it is. Food's good, but I could go to like Drift Inn, or if you really want a good spot, go to Basil's too. It's almost identical to Kroll's. It was founded by the Kroll family. I don't know if it's tied to the same Kroll's. Almost identical, but the prices are so much cheaper. It's in the middle of nowhere though. Chad says, any New Year's plans? Hopefully to be asleep by 9 o'clock, and hopefully my son lets me sleep. Last night, the last couple of nights, my son's been up for like hours at a time. Last night, we were up from 1:50 to about 4:10. So I'm hoping Mason lets us sleep a little bit. That's my plans. Um, Jenny says, thanks, Legendaries. Yeah, shout out to Legendaries. What team is a sleeper that will come in on strong in the playoffs? I hope the Packers. I don't know if they're considered a sleeper. I hope the Packers, Rams, depending on which Rams team shows up, they've put together some good games, and they've also put together some sloppy games. So it's hard to say. Um, let's see. I think I see Detroit scored, so maybe we're back on top there. This is a good question, Bailey. Do you think signing McManus was just to get by, or do you think they keep him going forward? That is such a great question that I don't know the answer to it. I could see the Packers. Hey, he's looked good. I don't know how old he is. I think he's a little bit older. I think he's been in the league like 10 years. He's looked good. He's still got pretty good leg. Maybe you can sign him for a 2 or 3 year deal. And I don't know. Maybe you can sign him for a 2 or 3 year deal and keep that kicking consistent where you can. Seeing here, I think there's some combination or conversation going on. Douglas says, "Do you think we'll go to Philly first round?" I think so. I think that's how it's gonna fall. Looks like 21-13 San Francisco. Appreciate you guys keeping me updated. I'm probably not gonna watch it either way because I'm gonna go upstairs and go to bed after this. But yeah, a lot of good questions. I'm gonna drop this giveaway one more time. If you haven't entered, do so. If you have already entered, don't do it again. You must be here to claim. If you're not here, your prize is going to get forfeited. So that's how it goes. I will say I see some talk about Malik. If the Packers were to get offered a second round pick for Malik, that'd start a conversation of like, this is a pretty enticing thing. Now there's a lot of stuff going on in New York right now where there's a lot of unhappy players from the sounds of it. Not to talk about the Jets, because I feel like every time you talk about Jets, people think you're just talking about Aaron Rodgers. It sounds like there's a lot of unhappy players right now. It sounds like Garrett Wilson is potentially unhappy with what's going on. It sounds like Sauce Gardner might be unhappy with what's going on. Depending on, you have a new GM coming in, depending on what they do. I hear that the Jets might need a quarterback. Now they're going to have a top something pick, I would imagine. Could you bundle Malik with something to get a Sauce Gardner, to get a Garrett Wilson? Probably not. The Jets probably aren't going to move on from him. And if they do, they're probably going to want a lot of compensation. But just spitballing, they might like what they see with Malik. It might fit their new offensive scheme of what they want. And, I don't know. Douglas, yes, I've posted it a handful of times. It says like forms.gle. It's like a Google Forms. If you don't find it, scroll up a little bit. Menominee. Appreciate you watching, man. My hometown. Good old Menominee. Home of UW Stout and Fortune Cookie. All right, let's see if there's any more questions. Otherwise, we'll jump into that giveaway. Tony says if they get offered a second round pick, they got to take it. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the old like Ron Wolf method, right? You develop these quarterbacks, or you have these quarterbacks, and you get rid of them before they hit free agency, so you can actually get some value in them. I kind of wish we would have done that with Matt Flynn back in the day, but that's how it goes. Would I trade Watson and Malik for Wilson? Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, I feel like Watson is very underappreciated on our offense, but Garrett Wilson's also very good, so it's really tough. That's a really tough one. Um, I don't know. I don't know. The Packers invested a lot of capital to take Watson, and I know you don't want to have like the loss, like that. What is it called? Like the sunken cost fallacy, where you're not making a move just because of that. Uh, so that's a really tough one. Garrett Wilson looked really good his rookie year. He hasn't looked as good this year. So it's hard to say. Is it Rodgers? Is it something else? Is he having a sophomore slump? My gut says maybe do. Probably do. You'd get another year. No, they're both drafted the same class. Watson and Dobbs have both put up more touchdowns than Wilson, though. So, um, yeah, I don't know. My gut says you probably take that deal, but it's definitely an interesting conversation. All right, let's draw a winner here. Appreciate the questions, guys. It's always fun talking through this. Um, shout out, shout out. I know. Another segment here, but shout out to Nicolay Law. I appreciate them. We couldn't do giveaways all season long without Nicolay Law. I love Nicolay Law. I'm very thankful to be working with them as well. I have um, a new project that I'm going to be working on here soon that I'm excited to talk about a little bit later on. I'm sure I'm going to announce it kind of right around the Super Bowl, but because we're not going to be doing the live show, we got to find something to fill our time. So I have something coming this off season, more to become. But Nicolay Law is going to be a part of that, and it sounds like giveaways are going to keep rolling as part of that. So thank you, Nicolay Law. I really appreciate them, and it's more than just the giveaways, the support they give me as a creator, and how awesome they are to work with. Honestly, and I'm not even saying this, but after working with them from this side, if I truly did have an injury, I would go to Nicolay Law all day long. The amount of care that they give me as a content creator, I can only imagine what they do for people that they represent. Russell's been a stand-up dude every interaction I've had with them, and I can't say enough positive things about them. So thank you, Nicolay Law, for sponsoring the show all season long. And all season long, when the Packers lose, we're doing a bonus giveaway because Nicolay Law has your back. When bad things go happen in your life, even something as simple as the Packers losing, Nicolay Law has your back. Because the Packers lost, we are going to be doing double giveaway tonight. So I'm excited about that. I see Tony still get a kick out of that Metro Dump comment. I'm surprised that's the first time you've heard that. That's what we always called it here in the Metro Dump. Rest in peace. Now they got the bird killer. All right, let's do some giveaways here. I got to mail those out this week. I know I have Chris's to mail out, and then I got to mail out my favorite things package to the person who won that as well. All right, we have 25 entries. Also, our scenario of the week did not hit this week. I think we had no offensive turnovers as the scenario of the week. So we will not be having a third giveaway. Had Jacobs not fumbled that opening drive, we would have had 3 giveaways, but it's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. All right, here is the giveaways. Gonna make sure I pasted the right list. All right, 25 entries. I didn't look through to see if there's any duplicates. I trust there's not. Cool. I don't think there is. All right. Good luck, everyone. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Appreciate Nicolay Law for allowing this to be possible. We're going to draw 2 winners, and then we're going to do the scenario for this week against Chicago. Derek, you're on the board. I thought Ron was going to snipe one. I don't think Ron's gotten one yet this year, and he's watching every week. So, Derek, if you could give me 1 through 40 up or down. We're going to do one more, and then we're going to draw. We're going to see what the prizes are, and we're going to do our scenario. So, Derek, if you're here, 1 through 40 up or down. Is Alfonso? Is that where we're at? Sweet. Alfonso, if you're here as well, 1 through 40 up or down for me, please. Congratulations, Derek and Alfonso. Great job, guys. Let's draw. We got Derek right there, 15 up. Must be a popular number because I have 20 as the next one up. All right, let's draw that scenario while we're waiting for Alfonso. If Alfonso does not claim it by the end of the episode, then we are going to be drawing again. So feel free to hang tight. At least I'll tell Alfonso. Alfonso's here. All right, let's see what our scenario is for this week. And then we're going to open, see what Derek got as a prize. I'm sure the anticipation's killing him. Romeo Dobbs, 100 plus receiving. It's going to be a tough one. Oh, there's Alfonso, 22 up. Awesome. Congratulations, Derek and Alfonso. Whew. 22 up. The next one's 28. All right. Let's see. Derek, you can't see it. It says 20, though. I should probably make it bigger next time. But I have it there so I can sort through all the envelopes and see it at a quicker time. So, Derek, let's see what you got. Derek is looking at, you got a Don Mikowski 8x10, signed 8x10. You can't see, it's pretty blown out. Maybe you can see it a little bit. I don't know. It's hard to say. Don Mikowski 8x10. Congratulations, Derek. I'll be reaching out to you both for your addresses so I can get these sent out to you. Alfonso, he won. Willie Davis signed 8x10. Hall of Famer. Nice pull. Awesome. Congratulations, guys. Thank you for watching. Derek, I know you're in here a lot. And Alfonso, I think you're in here quite a bit as well. So thank you both for hanging out and all the support. Let's also, once again, thanks, Nicolay Law. Wouldn't be possible without Nicolay Law. I certainly wouldn't be able to do that out of my own pocket and do giveaways as much as we are. So Packers are playing the Bears. We need Romeo Dobbs to have 100 plus yards. And yeah, that's going to be a tough go, especially you don't know if, you never know if they're going to bench people halfway through the game, give people other opportunities. So it's always tough to see what's going to potentially happen there and how much that could impact things. But nonetheless, the show goes on. We got the Packers and the Bears. I didn't forget. I just didn't have time, if we're being honest. I usually try to write down like what game, what's our consecutive game, how many games we've played. Let me pull that up here. What a real professional show we got going on. This is going to be right now the Packers and Bears. The Packers lead the series 108-95 and 6. I don't know what the math is. It's going to be the 210th game between these two franchises. That is a lot. And then they are 1-1 against each other in the postseason. That's a lot of history, and obviously it's the biggest, oldest rivalry. Well, I don't know if it's the oldest rivalry. I think the Cardinals and Bears are the oldest rivalry. I don't know if they count that as a rivalry, but the Cardinals and Bears are the oldest teams in the NFL. The Packers are the third oldest team. Either way, it is the most historic rivalry, most storied rivalry. We'll go with that. The game's been set now for noon on 1/5. We do have that overlay that shows kind of the layout of these two teams. We have, I mean, if you're looking through the entire list, Green Bay's dominating in all of the categories, minus the interceptions given away and the total turnovers. That being said, do not let that fool you. Any given Sunday is a thing. The Bears are going to want to beat the Packers more than probably anything. This is their potential like highlight of the season for them. Now, if the Packers pull their starters and they beat them because of that, it might not feel as good. I hope the Packers can just beat the brakes out of them. Beat the brakes off them, and I hope the Packers go into the postseason feeling some sort of momentum. I hope the Packers are coming out slow and sluggish, and I hope they can just do their thing. But offensively, you see the Packers averaging more in total yards, pass yards, rushing yards, and average points. Defensively, they hold teams to less yards, whether it's through the air or rush through the air or on the ground. And then the points allowed, the Packers allow 19.6 on average compared to the Bears, 21.8. As far as turnovers, Packers are generating far more. Maybe not far more. The Packers are generating more in each category. 16 interceptions, 13 fumbles, and 29 total on the season, where the Bears are 11 for both interceptions and fumbles at 22 on the year. Bears, Caleb just doesn't throw many interceptions. I think right now he's in that category of taking more sacks rather than forcing the ball. It feels like he's trying to want to be like perfect with the football, which you're seeing him take a lot more hits. Also means that he's just not throwing interceptions. He's not throwing stupid passes, which I guess you like to see out of a rookie quarterback. But those hits will start to pile up. We saw Andrew Luck take a lot of hits early on in his career, and it ultimately made him retire early. So, yeah, it's a tough one. Tony, I hope you're right. I hope we win by 30. I think that's tough to do in the NFL. I think it's going to be a much closer game than a lot of people maybe want. But hopefully we're winning by 30. Jenny says, noon start, any brunch suggestions besides mimosas? I, in particular, to coffee myself. I will be drinking coffee early and often during the game. But yeah, I mean, looking at it, a lot of things favor Green Bay, but that doesn't matter any given Sunday. But I do like to pull this up just to show how things are breaking down. And as always, we're going to end the show on a fun story. This is a story that I enjoy. I was watching, before I tell the story, Bushmosas. That sounds like my dad wrote that comment. Shout out to you, Pops. I think I saw you comment a little bit in here, so I don't know if you're still watching or not. I get my dad a case of Bush Light like every year for his birthday or Christmas, whatever. It's the same day. I get him a case of Bush Light every single year. So he's on board with the Bushmosas. I'm drinking the coffee. But this week's story of the week, I was watching a Vince Lombardi documentary, and I remembered this from watching the documentary. And I was like, this is a good story to share. So it's well known that Vince Lombardi is one of, if not the greatest coach of all time in the NFL. But did you know he had success coaching basketball? And here's that story. At St. Cecilia High School, Lombardi was asked to coach the basketball team despite having no experience with the game. He was never a coach. He never played basketball. He knew next to nothing about basketball. So Lombardi went to the library. He found a book that was 10 to 15 years old. It was somewhat outdated. And he read that front to back, and he used that as his Bible. He not only did really well coaching basketball, but in 1945, he won the state championship as a high school basketball coach. Just shows that Lombardi's determination and leadership would prevail no matter what he was doing. And I think Red Auerbach, who was the coach of the Celtics dynasty in the 1960s, should consider himself lucky that Lombardi chose to stick to football rather than basketball, because I think we'd be hearing about a Milwaukee Bucks dynasty or something in the 60s had Lombardi had a say in that. So I love Vince Lombardi. I love watching documentaries about Vince Lombardi, and I think what Vince Lombardi did for Green Bay and his players doesn't get talked about enough. And that story is just a great story to show how amazing Vince Lombardi was as a leader. Yeah, that's going to do it for this week. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Next week, we're going to be back to the Tuesday schedule. So I appreciate you working with my flexibility here. I know we missed the 1 week, and then the last 2 weeks have been a little weird. We did Thursday last week and Monday this week. But next week, we're going to be back Tuesday, 7:30 Central, right here in my basement. So I hope to see you guys next Tuesday. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for talking. I appreciate all the questions and interaction. Yeah, I look forward to it every week. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next Tuesday, 7:30 Central.